Hi everyone, my name is Elina, I'm a watercolor artist and educator, and in this video I'll show you how to add dimension to your paintings using layering and glazing techniques. Here are the materials I'll be using today. The paper is from the 500 series Ready Cut watercolor paper by Strathmore. It's 100% cotton and 300 GSM and measures 8 by 10 inches. I've already taped it to the board that comes with the package using paper tape. This will keep it in place and prevent buckling. I also did the sketch in advance, so if you like to follow along, you can pause here and copy it. The paints I'm using are from the new MaimeriBlu landscape theme sets. This one is the desert set. If you've been following me for a while, you know I love painting deserts and the colors in this set are so perfectly selected. All of them are single pigmented and have excellent light fastness. I've already squeezed a small amount of each onto my ceramic palette. My brushes are by Princeton. The flat one is from their Neptune series and the others are from the Aqua Elite series. I've been using them for a while and they're truly a joy to work with. Let me just spray my paints with some clean water to activate them. I also have 2 jars of water, a cotton towel and a paper towel, and that's all I'll be using today. Let's start painting. I'll place my paper tape below to create a slight slope which will help the water flow down. This will be especially useful when painting the sky since I plan to create a gradient wash. I start by wetting the entire sheet of paper, taking my time to ensure it's evenly moistened so I can work wet and wet for longer. For the sky, I'm mixing a little bit of gamboge, some transparent yellow and a touch of transparent Mars red. By the way, this is my favorite color in the set. This mix gives me a glowing color, and with that I'll add a few stripes to the upper part of the painting. I drag the color downward and now using a clean brush, I continue blending until I reach the sand dunes. I repeat this process a few more times until I'm happy with the color intensity and the smoothness of the gradation. A little bit of a darker color on top for more contrast. Perfect. Now let's quickly paint the dunes. I'm mixing transparent Mars red, gamboge hue and a bit of sepia. I'll cover the entire area with this base color and later I'll show you how to add volume using layering and glazing. At the very bottom my paper has already dried, so I'll need to add a bit of water to the mixture to help it flow. And while it's still wet, I add a couple of strokes of Mars brown at the very bottom. If the paint here spreads too much and that bothers you, you can use the dry brush, fluff it up a bit and blend it out. Let's leave it to dry and then we can move on to painting the pyramid. Now that my paper is completely dry, I'll make a watery mixture of sepia with whatever is left of the transparent Mars red on my palette. I'll use this to cover the pyramids, once again applying a flat layer of paint. I can build up the volume once it dries. It seems like I picked up a bit more paint, so it's looking darker, but that's okay. Also notice that I'm not trying to paint a perfectly straight line. If you look closely at the photos of the pyramid, their edges are jagged and uneven, so I wiggle my brush a little to emphasize that. Great, now let's dry it. I'll use my hot air gun to speed up the process. Now let's add some dimension. Using the same mixture I used for the pyramid, I'll cover just one side. Dragging a few lines on the other side to create texture. I'll also drop in more concentrated paint here and there to add some detail lines. Moving on to the next pyramid, this one is a little different. I'm taking some sepia just on the tip of my brush. Now I quickly wash my brush and use it to soften this edge so it blends seamlessly with the rest. Here again we can add some texture using a dry brush. Let's dry this layer so we can work on the area next to it. I take some sepia again and cover the entire side of the pyramid. let's add this structural element using more concentrated paint along with a few extra details. For finer texture, I'll switch to a smaller brush for more control. Okay, the pyramids look great. Now let's move on to the sand dunes. With an additional layer and some glazing, we'll create more depth. This time I'm using Mars Brown. I add it here following my pencil line, then quickly wash my brush and use it to soften the edges and blend. We have a couple more of these to do following the same process. First, adding the darker paint along the edge, then softening it with a clean damp brush. I remember this being one of the hardest techniques for me when I was just starting out. It takes practice, but once you get the hang of it, it becomes effortless and really enjoyable. Compared to wet and wet, this gives you a lot more control. Now let's paint the people with the camels. I take some Mars Brown. Let me first dry this area. With thicker paint on my brush, I dab it on my towel to remove excess moisture and start filling in the shapes I drew. Don't worry too much about details or making perfectly straight lines. Use expressive strokes, lift your brush often and use just the tip to create thin lines. Now let's add some color spots here and there to make it more interesting. And let's not forget their shadows. Time to paint the palm trees. I'll add a little gumbosh to my green to make it look more natural and realistic. Again, using thick paint and expressive strokes, I'll paint the palm fronds. Now I mix the green with Mars Brown to get a darker shade and add a few more strokes. For the tree trunks, I'm using sepia. Applying a lighter shade on one side for dimension. We can also add a few green spots to the camels to balance the color harmony. Now I'll paint the shadows for the palm trees. For the final touch, let's add some splatters to the foreground to create a sand texture. I also love adding larger spots with my brush. And here it is, our desert landscape is complete. Let's remove the masking tape. I hope you enjoyed painting with me today, and until the next time!